Hello, my name is Joseph Foster from Radio Free Tartaria, and today I'm going to do a presentation on projects and patents that are pretty crazy from the United States and Canadian governments. And this is going to be part one of a multi-part series. In remembrance to all the children killed by U.S. bombs, today over 67 children will be found dead in Gaza. Many more will be found in Lebanon, many more in Syria. Even more will be found in Yemen. And even more will never be found because they were vaporized. Some will slowly die, slowly, from their wounds because a building collapsed on top of them. We were all complicit, we were all accountable. We may not have dropped the bomb, but we sure as hell didn't stop it from being built. Those children will be allowed in God's kingdom. I can't say the same for us. So we're going to start off this presentation with Project 1974, which 1974 wasn't the year of the project. It was actually June 1956. But with that being said, this was late 50s, early 60s project. So think about how many years ago that was. We were trying to develop a flying saucer type craft like this. This project was designed to be a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, VTOL, designed to reach top speed of Mach 4, with a ceiling of over 100,000 feet, and a range of 1,000 nautical miles. This project had many tests and many failures, but I believe they secretly succeeded. But even before this project, they were already using electrostatics to control crafts by October 1954. And odds are even before that. I believe way before that. I believe we've actually had these things forever. I believe the previous civilization had them, and I believe our civilization pretty much has always had them. But I believe it was only the elite of this world that have these, though. I don't believe that common military pilots, pilot these crafts or anything like that. I believe that it's a very special, undesignated group of very elite, very wealthy individuals that are allowed to dictate who pilots these crafts and pilots the crafts themselves. So there's a summary here of the final development of the craft. So basically what they were saying is the craft could take off. It could fly about 2-3 feet above the ground. It couldn't go much higher than that, and it couldn't be controlled very well, just because this craft wasn't specifically powered by electrostatics. It was actually powered by vents and like a propeller, kind of like a helicopter blade, but a lot smaller and a lot more blades too. So, as you can see here, you got the pilot's cockpit, which is here, traditional saucer cockpit, if that's even really a good phrase for that. I mean, this is how I always see them when I look at these blueprints. And I've seen a lot of UFO blueprints, okay, over the years. There always have a spot like this in the middle where there's kind of, just either cameras pointing towards the outside, or there's just these really thick glass type windows. These are the flight control shutters, if you can see my little cursor here. And these are all around the aircraft to determine where the airflow needs to kick out to make the vehicle go a certain way, I'd imagine. Let's see. Air intake doors. Hovering case. So this is where the air is coming in to be shot down through the bottom of the craft. This is the lower compressor here. So it's basically taking air from the top, compressing it, shooting it out the bottom, or shooting it out these flight control shutters to control where the craft is going to go and when it's going to go. Engine access panel is here to access the actual engine that turns this turbine, which compresses the air. This is the lower intake right here. Fuel tanks. Inner wing I guess you would, yeah, I guess you could call that a wing. I don't know, it's more like a disc, but then this is the outer, what they call the outer wing here. Upper intake, internal airflow ducts. So this is for airflow, I believe, into the engine of the craft, I'm pretty sure. So let's continue on to more blueprints. This is another view of the craft. Let's see here. Take off air intake doors. So I'd imagine these doors would open and close according to how much air they want to get into the vehicle at certain times. Let's see here. Rudder nozzles? Whatever that means. I'd imagine that's for steering. Fuel tanks right here. The compression. So I imagine that's where they compress the air. Disc, rotor, upper bearing plate, combustion system, air intake sliding doors. So this craft is basically, the whole goal is to suck in air from the top of the craft, compress it within the craft, and shoot the air out. Like, let's say I shoot the air out the back to make me go forward. I shoot air out the front to make me go reverse. I shoot the air out the bottom to make me go up. I shoot air out the top to make me go down. That's how this model of the flying saucer goes back, forth, up, down, all that stuff. So it's a very smart design, but you'll see later on in this presentation it gets a lot smarter than that, though. Like they've perfected this. Let's just say that over the years. So before that, though, there's a couple inventions I want to show. There's the DARPA Smart Bullet, which is a 50 BMG round. So this is a sniper working at extreme ranges. And extreme ranges means like 6 to 10 miles, guys. The longest shot made by a conventional rifle was also a 50 caliber by a Canadian sniper, and that was 2.2 either kilometers or miles. The shot, he killed a Taliban machine gunner in Afghanistan. Longest recorded shot that was made, and it was confirmed. So with this system, though, all you have to do is shine the laser on whatever you want the bullet to hit, and the bullet will use an optical sensor to guide, and it'll use fins to steer the bullet to the target. So an optical sensor on the bullet detects the light from the laser to identify where the target is. As you can see, the laser right here. Once fired, basically fins, I can't really pronounce that. Once fired, fins inside the bullet receive, or actuators, actuators, I guess. That's how you pronounce that. Once fired, actuators inside the bullet receive data from the optical sensor to guide it to the correct location. Fins inside the bullet change the bullet's trajectory, and the bullet can correct its movement 30 times a second. Okay? So it's making 30 corrections a second as it's flying. And mind you, this round comes out of the muzzle at around 2,800 feet per second. Okay? So that means it goes a little bit over a mile every 2 seconds. So as you can imagine, okay, this thing's correcting itself over 30 times per mile that it's shooting. And if you're shooting at 6 to 10 miles, I mean, what 6 times 30 is, what, 180. So you're correcting 180 times at 6 miles. And at 10 miles, you're correcting 300 different times. That bullet's correcting its trajectory. Which is really, really just fascinating to me. It's fascinating. A very, very smart system. And that's the thing too, the round's a lot bigger. As you can see, this bullet is now 4 inches, which a standard 50 cal round is, I believe, if I can remember right, it's about just over or just under an inch. It's right about an inch, though. But this one is specifically 4 inches. Because it has the propellant, the fins, the computer system, the optical sensor, the actuator, everything inside of it. So it's a lot bigger package. More like a small ordnance. Like a small artillery shell or a small guided mortar shell. The weapon that deploys this ordnance is any long gun that fires a 12.7 times 99. That's just technical terms for the 50 BMG. With a max range of 6 to 10 miles as far as I know. DARPA will not confirm the max range, that is still classified. So we really don't know how much farther beyond 10 miles this bullet can go. I would imagine it can actually go a lot further though. I would assume. Because if it was just 6 to 10 miles, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have the max range classified if it was just 6 to 10 miles. Pretty sure it's a lot further than that. But they did disclose it will go 6 to 10 miles though. That's confirmed. How it works. Optical sensor. The bullet has a sensor often in the nose that detects a laser beam pointed at the target. Guidance system. The sensor sends information to a guidance and control system, usually with a small processor with an algorithm. Steering mechanisms. The guidance system controls actuators that move small fins or control surfaces on the bullet, allowing it to adjust its trajectory. Okay, so that makes sense. The actuators are connected to the fins. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Because I was trying to figure out what the actuators were, and it's just what moves the fins. So that makes sense. In-flight adjustments. The system can make multiple adjustments per second, which is 30 adjustments per second is what they're saying, allowing the bullet to track a moving target or correct for external factors like wind. When you're shooting a long gun at really long ranges, the biggest effects that you're going to have to deal with are the droppage of the bullet, the wind hitting the bullet, the humidity in the air, the what was another one? If the target's moving or not. So you have to shoot where the target's going to be and not where the target is. There's like so many different factors. I'm not a sniper or anything like that. I don't claim to know everything about sniping, but I just remember those factors specifically from research I've done. But continuing on. So we're going to move on to biocomputing bugs, remote control life forms, also known as HIMEMs. Okay? These are remote control flies, remote control beetles, remote control bugs of any sort. And I like this picture. It's got the little satellite dish, and it's got the little microchip. So this isn't a real bug. This is a kind of an AI animation type thing. But pretty cool picture for the cover, I thought. Hybrid Insect Micro Electromechanical Systems, are also known as HIMEMs. Funded by Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. Cyborg insects. Remotely controlled insect power circuits implanted during metamorphosis. Primary function is surveillance, but I mean, they can also do a lot more than surveillance with these bugs. I was thinking the other day when I was working on this presentation that if you could make a bug sting, like a really poison bug, sting an enemy and kill the enemy, and everybody would just think it's a bug bite, that's a very scary reality. So HIMEMs, Hybrid Insect Micro Electrical Mechanical Systems, HIMEMs, is a project of DARPA, a unit of the United States Department of Defense. Created in 2006, the unit's goal is the creation of tightly coupled machine-insect interfaces by placing micromechanical systems inside the insects during the early stages of metamorphosis. After implantation, the insect cyborgs could become controlled by sending electrical impulses to their muscles. The primary application is surveillance. The project was created with the ultimate goal of delivering an insect within 5 meters of a target, located 100 meters away from its starting point. In 2008, a team from the University of Michigan demonstrated a cyborg unicorn beetle at an academic conference in Tucson, Arizona. The beetle was able to take off and land, turn left or right, and demonstrate other flight behaviors. Researchers at Cornell University demonstrated the successful implantation of electronic probes in tobacco hornworms in the pupal stage. So this is kind of explaining how DARPA program used object insertion ability into pupas, which is kind of the larva, to reliably insert microsystems instead of glass tube or insect control. So basically, they're inserting this technology at the earliest phase of life they can for these bugs. So it's pretty much you're inserting all the hardware and you're having the bug actually grow around it. So you know how there will be people who would, like back in the day, they would lean a bike against a tree and the tree would actually grow around the bike and encompass the bike, kind of eat it. That's the same concept here, but a bug's eating all the electronics that needs to be in its body in order to control it. It's not very humane. It sounds very graphic to me, and by the images I've seen, it is. But this is DARPA for you. You know, they're just concerned about how to kill everything and anything, and, you know, they're not very concerned about the rights of bugs or humans, so that's for sure. So, the power sources for these HIMEMs are either chemical batteries, solar cells, usually inserted on the top of either the wings or other parts of the exoskeleton, biofuel cells. You know, glucose, is what powers your brain, kind of. It's like it's basically when your body breaks down food, it produces glucose, which runs through your blood to power your brain, I believe. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's what glucose does. So that would kind of make sense. Biothermal harvesters. I'm not sure too much. I don't really know too much about biothermal harvesters. I would imagine it's the heat of the insect that's creating electricity to power the electronic devices. Biovibration harvesters is just a natural resonance of the animal powering the actual electronics. So you're creating electricity through vibration to power the electronics inside the animal. This was a really interesting thing. An illustration of cyborg beetle microsystem. Photograph of assembled visual stimulator with LEDs, microcontroller, and micro battery. Photograph of beetle in flight under microsystem control for scale. The MSP 430 measures 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters by 1 millimeter. Okay. So I thought this was like super interesting. This little picture that they made. I didn't make this. Someone else did. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I really hope it doesn't hurt the bugs, though. You know, I was trying to figure out if it does or not, and there was nothing that DARPA was saying, confirming or denying that fact. So I'd imagine it really affects the bugs. I mean, it has to. There's no way it doesn't affect the bugs. It's just sad. You know, I'm the type of person where I can't even kill a spider without feeling terrible about it. So I can't imagine how terrible I'd feel strapping a robotic system onto a larva and having it be ingested into the bug through its life. That's just, ugh. Sorry, it's hard to even talk about. It just sounds graphic, you know. Now we're going to move on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Claytronics, or programmable matter. So this is kind of like a bunch of mini nanobots that all communicate to form one object, pretty much. So it's a bunch of particles that are basically, it's a bunch of computed particle matter that can form into anything and everything, anytime, anywhere. So let's say I need to build a tank and I'm in the middle of nowhere, but I happen to have a bunch of claytronic material. I can program a computer to program the claytronics to build me a tank out of the claytronics, if that makes sense. It's very, very, very high-tech stuff. I believe they already have this claytronics in service already. I'm almost positive they have it. But if they don't, they're sure as hell working on it. I can promise you that. Claytronics, also known as programmable matter, is a field of research exploring the creation of dynamic three-dimensional objects by arranging tiny, self-contained robots called CADMs. These CADMs, or claytronic atoms, can communicate, compute, sense, and move, enabling them to assemble into various shapes and structures based on programmed instructions. The goal is to develop a new medium where information can be experienced in a tangible, interactive, and realistic way, blurring the lines between the digital and physical worlds, which is true. I mean, if you're creating a design on a computer and it's literally building itself in front of the computer, that's kind of, you know, it's so trippy to think about. You know, you're just designing something on your computer and it's literally building itself 5 feet away from you while you're watching it build itself as you're designing it on the computer. That's just wild. I just can't even imagine watching something just build itself in front of me. It's so far ahead of the physics that I understand that it's kind of hard to even explain, if that makes any sense. Telepresence. Enabling physical interaction with 3D replicas of people in remote locations for meetings or collaborations. So these claytronics are supposed to be so advanced that it can actually form a person. Like, let's say I'm standing in Detroit, Michigan, okay? And I am wanting to present me, myself, and I in Poland, okay? And I want a replica of me in Poland. So if I had a bunch of claytronic material in Poland that I could program from Detroit, I could make a copy of myself halfway around the world while being in Michigan, and I could have a model of me in Warsaw that looks like me. So it's basically, I'd make a whole copy of me in Poland being in the United States, just from my computer. That's how advanced they want these materials to be. I'm not sure if they're there yet. I'm pretty sure they are. But if they're not, they soon will be. This is going to be a very interesting reality for our future, for sure. Manufacturing. Facilitating rapid prototyping and design iterations by allowing digital models to be quickly rendered as physical prototypes. Medicine. Creating adaptable surgical tools or dynamic scaffolds for tissue engineering. Entertainment. Producing interactive displays, dynamic sculptures, and immersive gaming experiences. 3D physical modeling. Allowing designers to interact directly with physical models that can be reshaped and resized by hand. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So next we're going to move on to this is real. This next concept. It's very real. It's been very real for a very long time. They call it V2K, voice to skull technology. So pretty much someone 10 miles away can project a microwave at me, and with this microwave they can broadcast a voice into my head, which can either talk to me in my own voice, like my monologue being controlled by them, or they can put another voice into my head of someone else without me being a willing participant or without me being able to stop it. Voice to skull technology and overview. Voice to skull V2K technology, also known as synthetic telepathy or microwave auditory effect, refers to the controversial concept of transmitting voices or sounds directly into a person's head using directed energy, particularly microwaves or electromagnetic waves. It's crucial to understand that this technology is surrounded by debate and concern, with claims of its use in electronic harassment and even mind control. Potential military applications. Some sources suggest that military and defense organizations have explored the potential use of V2K in applications such as crowd control, hostage negotiations, or mass notifications during disasters. There are also claims that such technology could be used for psychological warfare and mind control, which it already is, delivering disorienting instructions or messages directly into a person's consciousness without their awareness. So these people could broadcast a voice into your head, and you wouldn't even be aware that it's any different from your monologue. You'd think it's yourself talking to you, and it's really them talking to you in your voice. Really scary, crazy stuff. Ethical and social concerns. The potential misuse of V2K technology raises significant ethical... Excuse me, sorry. Potential misuse of V2K technology raises significant ethical and social concerns, including privacy violations. V2K could potentially be used for surveillance, monitoring individual thoughts or emotions without their consent, non-consensual experimentation, which is currently going on right now as we speak. Concerns exist about potential use and non-consensual experimentation or manipulation of individuals. Happens all the time. Mind control. The possibility of influencing behavior and manipulating decisions. Through subliminal messages or commands raise serious alarms. Blurred lines between reality and fiction. V2K can create disturbing experiences, including auditory hallucinations, physical sensations like burning, leading to psychological distress and potentially impacting health. And there's this thing called Havana syndrome and the Frey effect that are very, very real things that are happening to people around the world. Eric Hecker, the Antarctica whistleblower from the South Pole Station, is a very prominent voice in this space concerning this technology. He has an interview with Sean Ryan that is very, 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 very informational when it comes to all this. All the technology surrounding this stuff. That's one of the best interviews I've seen. Surrounding this space of this technology specifically. So, let's get to the actual patent. This is a very real thing. It's an actual patent within the U.S. Patent Office. U.S. Patent 6470214 is for a method and device implementing the radio frequency hearing effect. It describes a system that can transmit audible sound to a person's head using radio frequency waves, sometimes referred to as voice to skull V2K technology. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Inventor James P. O'Laughlin and Diana is also, last name is also Lawlin, if I can remember right. And the date is October 22nd, 2002. But this technology was in use way before 2002, though. This is not a new thing. This is a tale as old as time. Okay? Abstract. The patent details a method and device that utilizes radio frequency, RF energy to generate audible sound within a person's head. Key features. The technology allows for the subjective transmission of sound, meaning the recipient may perceive the sound as originating inside their head without the need for conventional earphones or speakers. Possible applications. While the patent mentions the potential for entertainment communication, it also associated with controversial topics like directed energy weapons and targeted individuals. Alternative names. It is sometimes referred to as DEW, directed energy weapon, or V2K, voice to solve technology. This is the actual patent from the United States Patent Office, right here. Okay. Method and device for implementing the radio frequency hearing effect. Sorry, I'm yawning, guys. It's like 4:30 in the morning when I'm recording this. I have to record these videos either very late or very early in the morning, just because the dogs, the cats, everybody else in the house. I just don't want anybody interrupting when I'm recording and stuff, so I'm very sorry about my yawning. So Deanna's last name is Lori. Lorice or Lori. So it is not Lawlin. So these are two different last names for the inventors. So it's James Lawlin and Deanna Lori. Albuquerque, New Mexico, United States. And this is the assignee is the United States Air Force. Let's see here. What else is interesting? Abstract. A modulation process with a fully suppressed carrier and input preprocessor filtering to produce an encoded output for amplitude modulation AM, and audio speech preprocessor filtering. Intelligible subjective sound is produced when the encoded signal is demodulated using the RF hearing effect. Suitable forms of carrier suppressed modulation include single sideband SSB and carrier suppressed amplitude modulation CSAM with both sidebands present. If anybody knows what that all means, please let me know in the comments. It's definitely not my field of expertise. So, this is kind of explaining a little bit of how it works. The acoustic signal, the outer ear and inner ear. So looks like it's going directly into your inner ear, into your acoustic brain, which is the part of your brain that processes sound. And the RF radio frequency to acoustic demodulator. And the acoustic signal is also, looks like it's coming in from two different ways, I guess. You have the acoustic signal and the RF signal, radio frequency signal. Wow, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. Just the things they can do with the technology they have is scary. It is scary. So next we're going to move on to so-called spacecrafts. Now, are they spacecrafts or are they just terrestrial human crafts? Well, we're going to find out here in a second. And I'm sure this is going to be one of the most interesting segments you have ever seen in any video ever. I promise you that. So let's continue. So we're going to start with the discopter. United States Patent Office, patent 2377835. So this invention is kind of a helicopter with a rotating, it's like a rotating disc that basically takes the air from the top and propels it through the bottom of the craft, making it float and making it being able to travel. Kind of like Project 1975. Very similar. But this one's a lot more simplified, though. It is much more simple than Project 1975. And this is June 5th, 1945. So this is basically the end of World War II. And this was filed the 1st of January 1944, too. So it was originally filed during the war. This is the starboard, it says. So as you can see, what it looks like to me is these blueprints, they aren't the most clear blueprints. I mean, this is from the 40s. But it just looks like that there's some sort of spinning blades in here that is taking air from the top, pushing it through the bottom. And I would imagine that this propeller is able to tilt in order to steer the craft in different ways. So this is a more detailed kind of version of what I was saying. These do kind of look like air compression devices, though, to be honest. They do look like they might actually compress the air, then shoot it out, which is a whole different thing than just having air go through a fan and out the bottom, or through the blades and out the bottom. Air compression is much, much different. That's how a jet engine functions, air compression. So, very, very interesting. So the inventor is Alexander Wagers, G. Wagers. Yeah, I would definitely look up this patent. And if anybody knows more about this patent and is able to state things that I haven't stated, please comment below and let me know what you know about this patent that I haven't already said. Because I was really, really interested in this one specifically. Because, you know, it's one of the earliest patents for any type of discraft. Okay? And it just seems like a very, very primitive design and idea for considering what I'm going to show you next. So, here it says, my invention relates to wingless, heavier than air flying craft. So it means no electrostatics are being used. That's what the heavier than air flying craft thing means. That's why he says that. Because when you're using electrostatics, you actually make the craft lighter than the air itself. That's why it can travel so fast. Okay? And we'll get into electrostatics here in a minute. What that is and how it works. So, coaxial rotors revolving oppositely for description and the specification and for illustration in the accompanying drawings, in which Figure 1 is a plan view of said type, as seen from above, the rotors having been removed from the view. That makes sense. Figure 2 is a side elevation view thereof. Figure 3 is a plan view thereof, as seen from below, the rotors having been removed from the view. So that makes sense why there's not any clear rotors within the actual blueprints themselves. And I actually added this craft at the last second, just an hour ago before I presented, so I haven't really had time to go over this. But I just want to make sure that I did add this. I was going to actually add it in the part 2, but I figured I'd just do it in this one because it just fits perfectly in, you know. But basically what he's saying is there's a propeller and a rotor that has a bunch of little blades, and it's taking air from the top, and it's either compressing it or not compressing it, and it's shooting it out the bottom to control the craft. It doesn't have a bunch of individual events like Project 1975 where it's compressing and blowing air out every which way to make the craft go all different directions. This is a much more primitive and simplified version of that 1975 craft. Pretty much. So now we're going to move on to the really high-tech stuff, okay? The Black Triangle. This is a very interesting picture of... I'm not sure if this is a real picture or not. I couldn't really get any good confirmation. But this is a triangle craft, okay? And this is a ramp going up inside it, people will walk into. But the one thing I want you to realize is look at how small these people are and how big this craft is. These crafts are massive, okay? I'm going to show you here in a little bit a craft that is 70 meters by 70 meters. Okay, that's almost a football field by a football field. That's how big some of these get. And there is an eyewitness that has given testimony in front of Congress who has actually seen that same vehicle I'm going to show you here in a little bit. So, what does this say? U.S. Air Force top secret nuclear-powered flying triangle. The TR-3B. I don't believe these are nuclear-powered at all. I believe they are powered by different types of free energy devices that use the ether, the fifth element, to basically... The higher you go in the air, the higher the voltage of the air gets. So, when you're really high up in the air, there is so much electricity around you that you can harness. It is just unbelievable. If you take a helium balloon, a voltage meter, and send it up, it'll confirm what I'm saying. That's the only experiment you'd need to do to see that be proven. This is the rough sketch of the craft that I'm going to be going over specifically. So it's very interesting. It's got these little kind of outlets or domes on it, 3 of them. And it's got this part here in the middle, and it's basically flat on top, flat on the bottom, flat on the sides. Sharp corners, probably riveted together, I'd imagine. Very human-like in the construction. UFO Legends, a TR-3B Black Manta. Here's another interesting picture. As you can see how small the people are compared to the craft. That actually looks like a stealth bomber, though. But it might not be also as well, though. I'm not sure. I can't really get a good enough view of it, but I can tell you that's not a stealth bomber. And I can tell you that, that doesn't really look like a real picture. Openly denied by both the U.S. Air Force and DoD, rumors persist of black triangular aircraft flying in either formation or solo. Many have speculated this craft to either be the fabled Aurora or the SR-91, featuring reports of pulse detonation engine and supersonic flight capability. Here is the patent for this aircraft. Yes, this aircraft is real. Yes, this is a real patent. And yes, this has been confirmed to be around since 2004, December 2004. Inventor John Quincy St. Clair is the inventor. See, triangular spacecraft. So this isn't a model. This isn't a toy. This is a real craft. A spacecraft having a triangular hull with vertical electrostatic line charges on each corner. So that's what D, F, and I believe this would be G. D, F, and G, these domes, those are electrostatic generators on each side that propel the craft up and down. Okay? So, spacecraft having a triangle hull with vertical electrostatic line charges on each corner that produce a horizontal electric field parallel to the sides of the hull. This field interacting with a plane wave emitted by antennas on the side of the hull generate a force per volume combining both lift and propulsion. So basically what they're doing is they're changing the charge of the material of the craft itself to make it go up, down, left, right, and any which way, shape, or form they want it to go. Okay? So all they're doing is changing the electronic flow through the craft and changing the voltage of that flow, and that's how the craft is flying and going back and forth. And I know that sounds like a lot, and it sounds crazy, but you'll see in a second kind of how this works. Kind of. I mean, it's very, very hard to explain. Especially because I'm not an expert on any of this, guys. I've only been studying this stuff for the last 3 years. So I'm no expert. But I'm just trying to explain it in the best way I can. So as you can see, the 3 domes on the corners like I was just showing you, they give out their field of electrostatic, okay? And then there's also the lines that go in between these domes that create a massive field around the craft, actually enveloping the craft and creating its kind of own, almost own ecosystem of the craft, if you will. Its own magnetic field. This is really interesting. I don't know anything about this equation, really. If anybody in the comments does, please let me know. So this is kind of a lot to get into. Referring to figure 4, the triangular hull is plotted together with potential contours, A, and the electric field arrows, B, created by the 3 corner line charges. The line charges are perpendicular to the paper. Notice that the electric field arrow and parallel crossing center parabolic antenna. C. The electric field is also parallel to the sides D of the triangle. Let's see here. Referring to figure 5, along the side of the triangle A, an array B of horizontal slot antennas emit electromagnetic waves that have a vertically polarized electric E field. These traveling waves interact with the electric field D produced by the line charges on the corners of the triangle. So pretty much what it's saying is pretty much the same thing, but in technical terms, as I was just saying earlier. About each corner has a dome. Each dome produces electrostatic charges. These electrostatic charges resonate throughout the vehicle's material, and through that material, the electrostatic gets discharged into these antennas, and these antennas produce an electric magnetic field around the vehicle, if that makes sense. And this requires an immense amount of electricity too, by the way. An immense amount. I've heard claims of upwards of hundreds of thousands of volts of electricity, but I can't neither confirm or deny that. I really don't know. This is just what I've been told. I've heard upwards of 1,000,000 volts of electricity for some of these earlier crafts. And I guess if you apply enough electrostatic electricity to anything, it'll create its own magnetic field naturally. And that's kind of what they figured out after the Roswell crash, allegedly. As they figured out that's how these crafts fly, is just immense amount of electricity and electrostatics. It's really that simple. So, if you guys want to go ahead and read through all these, You can. I want to keep this presentation under an hour, so I'm going to continue on because I have more to get to. Flying saucer UFO identified. Now, I believe... So this picture was from the Los Angeles Times. I don't believe it's a real photo, but who knows? I do believe this is a real photo. I can't remember where I got this photo from, like what organization it was from, but it's a very, very old photo. This photo as well is a very, very old photo of this circular craft. Looks like there's a city in the background. I'm not sure which city that is. This is another old picture, very old picture. I can just tell by the way it's taken. United States patent 3774865 flying saucer. This is real, guys. This is not fantasy. This is not anything like that. This is real. This is real life. The government has had flying saucers since 1973, November 27th, 1973. Confirmed. I know they've had them longer than that, but they confirmed it in 1973 with this patent. This is the official patent document right here. Flying saucer inventor. I can't read that name. Gosh, sorry. Now, the most interesting part of this whole entire picture is this engine. Interstellar Transport Vehicle Engine. Okay? December 14th, 1971. Now, this also says November 4th, 1968. H.W. Wallace. Gravitational force field. So, the gravitational force field is really just an electrostatic field. That's what that means, pretty much, because gravity's not really a real thing. Not in my opinion. I don't believe gravity's a real thing at all. You know, because down is down and up is up, and density is density, and electrostatics are electrostatics. Once you understand electrostatics, you can almost understand anything. Okay? Because electrostatics is literally the foundation for the functionality of things going up and down in the universe and in our world. Okay? And that's what the government has figured out in the early 1900s, as electrostatics is the key to flying. Okay? Because once they got rid of the airships, they needed something else. Okay, United States patent flying saucer Olympio F. Pinto, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Filed January 3rd, 1972. Wow, United States Patent Office. Related U.S. application data. Let's see here, anything else interesting? Foreign patents or applications, Canada. That's interesting, because we got an inventor from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, filing a United States patent with the United States Patent Office. And you have foreign patents or applications, you have Canada down here. I don't know too much about patents. I'm trying to learn, but I'm not sure what the whole Canada thing is down here. Maybe it's a patent for a certain part of the vehicle itself, possibly. This is a blueprint. So this is really interesting, okay? Because you have air bearings, you got engine 18, and it looks like this engine is, again, sucking air from the top, kind of like Project 1975 a little bit. And it's got an air chamber, and it's got these air bearings on both sides, And I believe these air bearings shoot compressed air any which way, because you got to remember, when the electrostatic charge is applied to this vehicle becomes weightless. This whole vehicle weighs less than 1 pound if you have the right electrostatic charge to it. It actually makes the weight negative. It's a negative weight when it's ascending, and it's a positive weight when it's descending. Okay, ascending, negative weight. Descending, positive weight. Okay? So, yeah, so any air that's shot out of these air bearings, when this thing is weightless, is going to have such a traumatic effect on the speed. It's the equivalent of... It's almost the equivalent like a CO2 BB gun, but way more powerful, okay? Because you're shooting compressed air at a BB that has pretty much no weight to it, like a plastic BB, and it's just flinging that BB so fast with such little air pressure because the BB's weightless. And because this is weightless, it's going to drastically affect the trajectory of this vehicle, just like the CO2 affects the BB coming out of the barrel of the BB gun, if that makes any sense. Okay? And I know this is very hard to believe. I know it's a lot to process, because I know we were never taught any of this, and it's a very foreign concept, still even to me. Like, I'm no expert in any of this yet. I just know enough to roughly be able to explain it to you guys, but I promise in the future I will make a way more in-depth breakdown of electrostatics and how it works and when it was first being developed and all that. I will get you guys a video on that, I promise you that. But this is just so cool. Like, this is my favorite patent that I found so far, is this one right here. I wasn't even going to include this one in this presentation. I was going to wait. But I'm like, no, this one's too cool. That's too cool. I got to put it on the first episode, you know? So this is very interesting. This one right here, okay? So it looks like we have rotor blades, kind of like in 1975 and the one from 1944. Okay, the only one that didn't have any rotor blades was the triangle one. That was pure electrostatics. Which I believe this one's mostly electrostatics too, but it does have some compressed air components to it too. As you can see, this is a really cool thing, okay? So you see how it's shooting air out the side here by figure 6? And it's going to make the vehicle go this way as the arrow's showing. Okay? Then right here it's showing just the different ways it can shoot air from the compressed air compartments. Solar cells on upper rotor blades and on outer rim. Okay. Metal blade right here. This is so interesting. And you got the cargo and the cockpit right here. And remember how I was saying all these crafts have the glass windows and they have those cockpits in the center? This one's no different. No different. And mind you guys, this craft is massive. Massive. Okay? Which I'm about to show you here in a second. So, moving on to other crafts. I cannot confirm or deny the existence of these specific crafts. The only eyewitness account I have is for the 09G, this one right here. And that is only from interviews that Dr. Stephen Greer, Sean Ryan, and the United States Congress, and Christina Gomez, and a couple other people have done with Michael Herrera, the Indonesia story, okay, where he confirmed a aircraft just like this, because they had a sketch artist recreate the aircraft, and it's almost identical to this. He said it was about a football field in diameter. This one's 70 meters in diameter. and it's pretty much the same exact thing as Michael Herrera described. And like the size of it too. Is 70 meters is massive for a craft, guys. That is 230 feet in diameter. Okay? So for Michael Herrera to just make up this whole story with the rest of his squad too, mind you, he had a whole squad of Marines with him when he encountered this craft and the crew, which were human Black Ops operators, but for him to make up a story about this craft, he would have to convince all his fellow Marines to go along with it. He would have to somehow know back then that this craft even existed. So I just don't see how his story would be lies, you know. This is the Kelvine sighting in Perthshire, Scotland in August of 1990. This is the most real photograph of a UFO ever taken that I've ever seen. This is an actual photo. Okay, this is a real photo. And now that I'm coming to the end of the video, I just want to explain something that we don't gotta blame these guys for the abductions and, you know, the UFOs apparently doing all these damage and stuff like that. Leave these guys out of it. Leave these guys alone. They don't mean us any harm. They're not even the ones piloting these crafts 95% of the time. Okay? These are human crafts with human weapons doing human things. So, if you ever encounter one of these guys, be nice. Okay, because they're not the ones to blame for any of this. I know a lot of Christians and people like that like to call them demons, which there's none of these Christians know anything about demons or extra dimensional life or any of that. They just don't. They just conflate everything they don't understand with demonic energy and demonism, which is not the right way to go through life. Okay, so these guys are not your enemy. This guy is not your enemy. And I'm going to end there. The future is here. Whether it's going to be a good or a bad future is up to us, here and now. By 2030, our future will be decided either by us or for us. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If I can do anything better, or if there's any improvements that you guys can think of that I can make to my channel, please criticize me in the comments, because criticism is the only way we grow as people, and I encourage it. And I appreciate it. Okay? So, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Pray for the children of Gaza, and be a very, very kind-hearted soul to all the animals and living beings in our realm, please. And with that, have a good night, good day, whatever time of day it is you're watching, make it good. Have a good one.